Welcome to the Bonneville Salt Flats, home to the standard course for world land speed records. It's one of the flattest places on Earth, and over these 30,000 acres of sodium chloride, the 300, 400, 500, and 600 mile per hour barriers have been broken. And today, the motorcycle category is one of the most popular, with rising stars like John Noonan piloting his nearly 250 mile per hour street bike. Mark Brazo of LandSpeedRacing.com gets the inside scoop.
All right, tell me a little about the bike.
The bike is a 2002 Suzuki Hayabusa 1300. It's been punched out to 1,363 cc. It's got Twirler rods, a lot of good internal engine components, an aftermarket turbo system, and we're hoping to put down some good time.
Well, when they started in 1949, there was very few bikes. Now, probably 35% of our entries are bikes. They call it salt fever.
Riders with the fever are divided into classes maintained by strict rules of engine type, displacement, and chassis configuration. Record setters push the limits on everything from a vintage 1955 Triumph Tiger Cup sidecar all the way up to the Easy Hook sponsored Streamliner of Sam Wheeler. Currently, the record in Sam's class, the V-Fuel Streamliner, is 322 miles per hour. And this landlocked missile represents 13 years of work by the team to own that record. But the added horsepower of their new 3,000cc turbocharged Kawasaki ZX-11 power plant is stretching the chain. A problem discovered only after a 274 mile per hour shakedown run.
Well, basically, it got so hot that it, when we say stretch, it didn't pull the metal apart. What it did, it wore it out, and it gets real sloppy. We didn't really hurt anything that bad, but it was a lot of chips, aluminum chips in there, and the sprockets were okay. The biggest difficulty with racing here, you can't test it until you come here.
With their corporate backing, the team has spent a small fortune trying to capture the record. But there are cheaper ways to get into the record books. Granted, they're not as fast. Van and Kathy Butler are perennial record setters with their 50cc Aprilia RS50. This team only needs to go over 78 miles per hour to break a 25-year-old record in their class, but that's not as easy as it sounds, especially with a 3 cubic inch motor and a much smaller budget.
This type of racing, this is probably some of the last grassroots racing that there is in the United States. I think that this cubic dollars doesn't really apply. Ingenuity applies a lot. You try things, sometimes they work, and sometimes they don't.
But what does work well with this team is the good-natured interaction of crew chief husband and rider wife.
Van tells me how he thinks I should drive the course and what I should look for on my computers. And then when I get on the course, a lot of times you have to ride by the seat of your pants, and I have to use what I think is the right way to do, and then I come back and tell Van why I did what I did. And sometimes he agrees with me. Not always.
A combination of small displacement power and high-tech design comes together in Derek McLeish's Streamliner sidecar. With the help of his brothers, this project in just 3 short months went from a PVC and plywood mock-up to the bike on the salt today. Swapping between 50, 100, 125, and 250cc Honda power plants, the team is striving for records in several sidecar classes. But no matter the power, the aerodynamics is critical to attaining speed. Speed that can be sometimes hard to describe.
The sensation really is, think if you're going 100, 200, 313 like my friend Rick Yacuzzi did, all right? 313 miles an hour, everything is moving so fast. And when you stop, it's like, you guys are in slow motion.
Now, if you don't think aerodynamics is that important and you attack the salt on your powerful street bike, you'll quickly run into what experienced racers call the hand of God. Watch how John Noonan's 468 horsepower Hayabusa dances from side to side as it reaches not its power limit, but its aerodynamic limit.
It's very strange when you're going very fast and you just can't go any. You can reach a point where you just aren't accelerating anymore. There's that point up there where you can have 40 miles an hour worth of wheel spin, where the bike is just fishtailing and you're just not going anywhere. It's a very strange feeling, you know, it's like somebody's holding you back.
Now, the street bike guys are into the very latest in engine technology for setting records, but one of the most entertaining teams on the Salt uses a cast iron engine design over 20 years old. And it's all the more impressive considering their goal is to push a naturally aspirated gas-burning hog past the 200-mile-per-hour mark for the first time ever. They call it the Great White Dino. 9 miles of salt that knows more about slowing you down than you know about going fast. California Fritz first came here in 1990, confident he could break the 200-mile-per-hour barrier.
I built a 120 cubic inch motor, this huge motor, and I'll tell you what, when I made my first run, 118 miles an hour, that was the top speed. Bonneville kicked my butt.
13 years later, and still in pursuit of his dream, the Too Much Fun Club's new Streamliner still uses a naturally aspirated shovel head built by Fritz. Its 118 cubic inches should easily push him past the class record of 184 miles per hour. On his very first run, the team shatters the record, hitting 215 miles per hour. But at the end of the run, the chutes tear off. So it's back to the pits for repairs because at Bonneville, you have to back up your record. The next day, the team's back on the starting line, and after one last check of the chutes, Fritz is off again.
When you get up to that 200 mark, everything changes, everything turns around. The whole machine is actually flying. The wheels are touching the ground just to give you direction. That's it. It's an experience.
And he does it again. 215 miles per hour, but the chutes tear away again. Now it looks like a complicated problem, but Fritz already knows the exact reason it's happening.
Buying cheap stuff at the Army surplus. I need to buy better equipment. I need sponsors.
California Fritz and the boys now realize there is no antidote for salt fever. In fact, it appears their condition has worsened.
When we come out here next year, we're going to kick some butt. We're going to show them how to go fast on an old cast iron Harley.